Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course, that makes this episode 39 of Circles and Squares, the PlayStation podcast. It's Friday here, Kate. How are you? We've made it to the end of another week. I'm feeling accomplished. I hope you're feeling the same and ready for a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really long week. I'm back in school properly. It is pouring rain out here.
My God,
All I can
so
think
much?
about,
Holy shit.
all I can think about is like a cup of hot chocolate. And I don't know why, but I'm at the point where it's like, can I Uber Eats or like DoorDash a hot chocolate from somewhere?
That's
It
desperate.
must be the rain, but like I'm in that desperate craving mode. And I don't like it. I don't like this feeling.
I think I know the answer to this, but are you a marshmallows or in or out person of your hot chocolate?
You know what? I'm a no marshmallow person. Hot take, I don't like marshmallows. They're good in s'mores because the s'more is like a whole package. It's the sum of all its parts. But other than that, I don't gonna fuck with marshmallows. What even is in a marshmallow?
You know what? I have you can tell we grew up together. We have exactly the same marshmallow sentiment as you there. I don't like them at all. Like some people just snack on those things, you know, and it's like power to you, I guess. But for me, it's like, oh God, it's a s'more or bust for me. that's all.
100%, 100%. S'more or bust. Speaking of which, I tried the other day s'moreos.
Oh really? And
they're pretty good. They're better than I expected because again, I'm not a big Oreo person. But they're pretty cute. The name, I think, adds a lot. But I would say they're worth grabbing a pack just to try.
First of all, that's blasphemous. Oreos are one of the best cookies, top tier cookie. And I don't know. I see those packs of Dad's cookies sometimes. Those are the ones I think are not good at all.
Oh, those ones are bad. Those ones are terrible. I bought them once for the first time recently. They suck. They're so hard. They're just like eating bricks. They're terrible.
Oh shit. Okay, so like yeah, F tier. I see.
F tier. Oreo's a solid B tier. They're always, you know what you're getting into.
One time we'll stop talking about this in a second, but one time me and my friend, we bought a box of Oreos. We literally crumbled them all up in a bag, like smushed them into little chunks and pieces, and then we just ate the whole thing as cereal. It was probably the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. Right up there with, beating Contra and all that stuff.
You know, as ridiculous as that is, it's like probably not that much worse than a lot of
good.
cereal.
You dip them in milk anyway. Like, yeah, exactly. What are you gonna go eat your honey nut cheer? Or I guess that's a reasonable one compared to like,
but
Cinnamon
like
Toast
Lucky
Crunch or
Charms
something.
and shit. Like,
yeah.
That's no good.
Oh God. Hey, you know what? I don't even know what to say. Enough about this stuff, though. We got to talk about some video games. This, of course, like I said, is a PlayStation podcast, not a serial podcast. So we'll get on with it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. As usual, we're going to start off with the games we have been playing. Second part of the show, we will have a news section, including a PlayStation Firmware update. And then for the third part of the show, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite video game spin-offs. So look forward to that to close out the show. Of course, we'll do listener mail at the end as well. And just to remind you, if you would like to be included in listener mail for a future episode, please send us in some questions or comments, concerns, anything you really want to mention to us. Just tell us a funny story about a game we played,
Right. Let us know what your preferred cereal choice is and how you weigh in on this marshmallow debate.
It's vital information, folks. It really is. So that would be circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. Or you can get on touch with us at Twitter as well, at CANDSpod. That's C and S pod on Twitter. But for now, Kate, let's talk about the first game for our week here. And this is Hitman 2 from PlayStation Plus. So this game definitely come back into the forefront, I guess, because of Hitman 3, which was so popular a year or two ago. So it's kind of nice to check in with the Hitman franchise. I know it's something we both haven't really played a lot of, but I was excited for this one. I like a good stealth game sometimes, and it's definitely a lot different than a lot of most other games you would play in the way that it works out. Like usually it's full stealth or it's shooter, run and gun type of stuff. But Hitman I really found could be a nice mixture, although it definitely errs on the stealth if you're playing it properly. Although for me, like I'm not sure if you had the experience that I had where my stealth definitely suffered sometimes and I found myself in a few gunfights.
Yeah, we definitely had a few kerfuffles. Definitely what you don't want to end up doing is trying to do hand-to-hand combat. If you're in a fight, I learned very quickly, if you're getting a fight, pull your gun out. Because you do not want to be like slow motion punching people while you're getting shot.
I didn't even try that.
I mean, that should have been obvious, but that does not end well for you.
So it came with all the DLCs and stuff as well. I don't know how much you got to play. I played just the first couple scenarios. It was the one you are on that beachfront house as the first mission. I guess that's the one you probably played as well. And then after that, you get taken to this, I guess it's like an airplane hangar, and there's like a second mission that takes place there with a plane and an ejector seat that has some fun things you can do with it. But so what did you feel about this game overall? Like I actually had a pretty good time. I'm interested to play more.
So I came into this last episode, if you remember, and I said Hitman's always been one of those games where I have such a high level of respect for it. I think it's an amazing concept. I think it executes it really well. I think Hitman is a really good series, but I just had this weird barrier. For some reason, it didn't interest me, and I was hoping that it would click and I would get past that, but it just didn't really hit me. And I'm still the same opinion even after playing it. I think this is a really high quality game. I think the puzzle solving's really fun. I think the environments are neat. I love that it gives you achievements and incentives to kind of, go through the levels multiple times and tackle them in different ways. And it really, at its core, it's like a puzzle game, and I love puzzle games, but I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe just the pacing of the game. I find that it's a very
It's methodical,
slow,
right? It's slow.
It's methodical, and I think it's a lot of like it's not like a lot of puzzle games where you're kind of able to see all your information at once and kind of plan things out and then follow through. I feel like with Hitman, it's a lot of kind of like trial and error and like walking around and trying to like puzzle things out as you go, and I don't know. I just found that I don't really have tons of motivation to explore all the different routes in a level and try to like figure like, oh, I wonder if I can do it this way, or like, oh, I wonder if I can get this guard's outfit and how can I, like what 3 steps do I need to take to achieve that? And I don't know. I just think it's not for me, despite it being a series I really love on paper, and like I totally understand why other people like it.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the multiple different attempts and like trial and erroring, because I think actually that's kind of what made me really enjoy this game. You were just saying about the slow pacing, and I totally agree. Like this game, you walk slow, you move slow, you interact with stuff slow. Like everything is very deliberate and the pace the game wants you to have. And I think that what would have made this game a huge failure in my opinion would be if, when you get found out or something doesn't go right, if you had to start right back at the beginning of the scenario every time, because you would have to go through those tedious things that you would like, whatever ritual you get into at the start of a level to make it work. But what really made this game click for me more than I was expecting was the way that it creates several different save points, like auto saves as you're going through the level. So you can quickly jump back and do something differently. So you're kind of trial and erroring, but the game makes it very easy to kind of flip through to the exact part of the level you want to get to. So it makes that very, very simple to do. And you don't have to waste your time. If you've made it to the 2/3 of the way through a level, you don't have to go back to like the start. You can just go back to where you made it to and then try to figure out again from there with a lot of flexibility. And I really appreciated that. And I had a lot of fun. It's like in that beachfront level. Maybe we'll just talk about that one, maybe spoiler free, just because it's the first level. This is not a new game by any means. So just be aware of that. But I know like one of the things that happens in that game is that when the target walks into the house, it's this, I guess she's like a mob boss or something. She's out like a hit, like hiring contract killers and stuff. And she's obviously not a good person. We're trying to take her out as the hitman. And I don't know what that says about us being a good person either, but we'll leave that one out for now. But she says she wants a cup of tea, and she says, and I thought, oh great, I heard her say that. I'm going to rewind time a little bit with the autostate, and I'm going to go put this rat poison I found in the sugar, because I remember her asking for something in the tea. And so lo and behold, she comes in, she asks her assistant for some tea. He makes it, but instead of the sugar, she wanted honey in the tea. And I was like, oh shit, I put the poison in the wrong thing. And so I quickly just jumped back in time, made the little tweak to my strategy, because I'd found out the right thing, and then it all worked out, and I was able to pull the hit off. And I found that was a very cool kind of pseudo way to make the monotony of some of the slow pacing go by really quick with options like that. And so I found it very fun. And like you said, it's very puzzle-like. Like this is very much, it's a puzzle game disguised as an action game, I would say. And so I think that those two features kind of working in combination was a lot of fun to play around with.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was one of the main notes I made for myself as well, is how it handles save states, which I think is fantastic. It's so user friendly. And what's cool about Hitman as well is that there is still action in the game. So it's one of those obviously very stealth focused, and you're definitely not encouraged to go in guns blazing, and oftentimes that's not going to work out for you. But if you do make a mistake and you're spotted somewhere you shouldn't be, or you're doing something suspicious, and you do start to get in a fight, you do have the ability to pull out your gun, or any kind of weapon. There's melee weapons and other things in the game.
There's shurikens in that level. Did you see those?
Realize.
You found the shurikens?
Hell yeah. The katana. I walked around the whole time in a guard's outfit with a katana on my back, and I was like, I'm the best guard in this room. Everyone's gonna feel safe with me. I would 100% go with katana guy. But yeah, it's cool. So you kind of have like those multi-layered options where if you're not going for a specific completion route in the level and something goes wrong, you can kind of play it out and try to, fight your way through, and then maybe, as long as it wasn't every guard in the level noticed, you might have a fight with a couple guys, hide the bodies, and then, go back to the cell section and try to work through the problem that way. Or if you are specifically trying to do something, you put the poison in the wrong place, then you can hop back to that previous save state and then continue on with where you want to do the poison. So it's very flexible in terms of options that the player has to deal with things when they either go like unaccording to plan, or if you realize after that you wanted to maybe adjust your strategy. So I really respect that. I think the games are well designed in that way. And it's a testament, I think, too, as well, to the level design, that there's so many different ways to complete it and so many different like achievements that you can get.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. And like I did as well. There's like some training missions. I don't know if you went to those ones.
That's on the boat, right? On that cruise ship?
Yeah, you got to get on the cruise ship. So I did that one as well, and it kind of takes you through it with taking some disguises. And then it encourages you, like, well, you kind of disguise yourself and like sneak into a meeting. And then one of the achievements, which I thought was like really ambitious, I was like, oh, I have no idea how you're going to manage that, is like actually attend the meeting as the person that
I did that.
Like hit is looking for.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and because you see him like throughout the level at first, but it's like, oh my god, you gotta be quick, because like that meeting happens like with or without you, right? So there's a lot
kind of
like
it's on a little bit of a timer. Like I kind of noticed the way that I made it happen was that I noticed that guy would kind of walk on a pattern. Like these NPCs have, things they're doing and routes they take, and so he walks up to that meeting. But then if you don't show up and if you're not there, you don't pull the hit off. He'll kind of, the guy will be like, oh, I need some extra time to think about this deal or something. So he'll walk down and he goes and gets a drink from the bar, and he just kind of repeats that cycle. So again, because I had poison on the mind, and it's one of the things that's like, I guess it's like an easy strategy for new players. Like I found this poison, I just put it in his drink, and then he had to go throw up, and I killed him in the bathroom. So it worked out really nicely. And then I showed up in that white suit, and everyone on the ship was like, hey, looking good, like nice. And I'm here with like this barcode on my back ready to go murder this guy. So it was interesting.
I think that's one of the things I like about the game, and adds to it, is it's really good at doing that like storytelling within the game. So depending on what outfit you have, like certain people will like, make a comment to you as you walk by, or like certain like weapons or things to hold are like considered suspicious or not suspicious depending on what you are. So like you can't normally carry a gun around, but if you're in a guard costume, well, not costume, it's like a proper,
it's a uniform.
Yeah, you're not even gone to the Halloween store. You've actually taken a proper guard uniform.
We're a real hitman. You're legit.
Yeah, that's right. You're legit. But if you're wearing the guard uniform and then you have a gun, that's okay, because a guard would carry a gun around. That's not seen as anything unusual. So that kind of like storytelling is very like, it's like a nice level of detail that kind of makes the game and the environment feel a bit more real, which I think is really important, because your puzzle solving is directly tied to everything in the environment. So those details I think are really important to kind of sell what's going on in the game.
Yeah, I think these details too ultimately adds to like the other big point I had to talk about was I just love the way the game is set up to be so replayable, because there's, like we were talking about before, there's so many different achievements, and not achievements, but they're like little tasks and little checklist things you can do in each level. You know, take the power out here, put on this disguise here, use this weapon to kill this person. Like there's a lot of different things, and there's no way to complete it all in one mission, I wouldn't expect. And so you're going, in multiple times to do different routes, and when you complete those achievements too, they actually unlock future stuff for the level. Like back to that first level, like the house on the beach. When I completed that level, one of the things that I did during my completion unlocked something for me. So now I was told that there'll be something stashed in the dumpster outside the house when I was to go back there. So that's cool, because it's like, well, I wonder what they put in there. Like what is this new tool going to unlock for me to approach this level differently? And so I think the game, there's tons of DLC now, but I think for what it lacks maybe in different levels and environments, it makes up for with very densely packed solutions to all these levels, and there's a lot of different ways to tackle them, like we said. So I just think it's a great package in terms of like value as well. And it's PS Plus now, of course, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I just want to point out my favorite detail in the game. So I played this with a friend yesterday, and we did the first mission together. And it starts you off kind of like wandering around the house, getting intel, and it's just kind of like teaching you the controls and how to interact with things, and what kind of stuff that you might be able to pick up. And we walked into the bathroom, and there was a scale on the ground, like just a normal bathroom scale. And you're smiling. I hope you know where this is going. And I said to him, I was like, oh, I wonder how much like Agent 47 weighs. And I stepped on it, like, haha, like, did they program the scale? And he weighs 47 pounds.
I won't question it. That doesn't seem quite right, but I will not question it.
No, he's a pretty big dude. But yeah, he weighs 47 pounds. Adorable.
I like it. Anyway, yeah, I totally recommend Hitman. I think obviously PS Plus makes it easy, but this one's an easy play for me, honestly. It's a good game.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. And while I don't think it's for me, and I don't think I'll be, rushing out to buy Hitman 3, I think this is definitely a game I would recommend to anyone who's even like kind of interested in the series or interested just in puzzle games in general.
Or stealth.
Do you think
puzzle and stealth?
Or stealth. Or just bald men. Do you think this will encourage and or fashion? There's a lot of outfits in this game. It's a good fashion game. But do you think this will encourage you to buy Hitman 3? Or even just finish 2?
I mean, I could see myself playing through this. It's funny you mentioned playing with a friend, because I actually did the same thing. I was screen sharing with a friend, 2 friends actually, and we were going through, and it was fun. I could see in that group setting, especially, this game really shining, and is something to play like that, pass the controller back and forth type of deal. I think I personally, as someone that's never played Hitman, I'm getting enough out of this to where I don't see myself buying 3 anytime soon, just because I have so much content to go through with this one. But that being said, if I was to make it through all of the content in this and really enjoyed it, then I could see myself looking into getting 3 in the future, because I would probably be looking for more at that point, right?
All right.
So yeah, good one. Kate, tell me all about Neon Abyss.
Okay, so Neon Abyss. Where to start? I'll do the stupid genre thing. So here's 17 keywords to describe Neon Abyss.
Is it immersive?
Immersive, story-driven, epic. No,
Kill
it's
the
not
lead.
actually
No, was it take the lead? Tide the leader. The Halo guy. That was a terrible impression. I'm sorry.
No, I was thinking movie guy who used to do all the movie trailers. He lost his job.
Yeah.
He doesn't do movie trailers anymore, but he was really good for a while.
He had a good run.
He did. But anyway, so Neon Abyss, let's get back on topic. It's basically like a bullet hell roguelike, I guess. It's like a 2D game, like a 2D like twin stick. And this game kind of caught my eye. I got it on Humble Bundle. And it sort of had my attention because it's got this really cool like neon punk aesthetic. And I'm also on this weird bullet hell kick right now.
I've noticed that.
I don't know where it came from, but I'm riding it out. And so this game has kind of been my like, I have an hour before bed and it's too late to play Returnal game. So I've been playing this instead. And it's
We
kind
all
of
need
like
one of those, Kate. We all need one of those.
it's like if Returnal and like Enter the Gungeon had a child, but secretly it's The Binding of Isaac. But I'm not allowed to say that because I haven't played The Binding of Isaac. But that's what everyone compares it to. But basically, like it's kind of like the core gameplay loop is you go into dungeons and they consist of like 5 tiers of the dungeon, and all the tiers are like a bunch of randomly generated rooms that all have like a boss at the end. And the boss of the first 4 rooms is just like a random mini boss that is from like actually quite a decently sized pool. And then the 5th boss is like your hit for the run, and it's kind of a more intense final battle. And then once you beat them, you move on to the next hit. And so you're kind of like, that's the progression of the game, is that you have like a big boss for every level, and you have to make it through the gauntlet to defeat that boss, and then you unlock the next boss that you have to fight. And what's really cool about that gauntlet section, and I really like it, is that when you beat one of the bosses, they get added into that rotation of mini bosses that you get to fight.
That's cool.
So it was really cool to see like the first big boss I fought, he's just like a generic mini boss later on in the game. And
I love it when
like,
games do that.
Yeah. It really like, first of all, it's a good way to kind of like keep the difficulty up because you're having the more complicated fights as opposed to the more simpler mini bosses. And then also like it is just makes you feel like you've really progressed a lot in the game, which is really cool.
It shows you how far you've come, right? That's exactly it. It shows you like, you know, it's the same thing in like Slay the Spire. You'll have one of the first bosses will become like a challenge in the 3rd room, and you just take it out like it's nothing. It's
Exactly. Like you don't intimidate me anymore. Like you mean nothing. But yeah, it's cool. So the gameplay, I guess I should explain that. It's actually quite simple. What you have at your disposal, you have a gun, and it's on a twin stick, so using the 2 sticks, like I guess you can use keyboard and mouse, but I was using a PlayStation controller, so using the 2 sticks, and one is to fire your gun and one is to move. You can jump, you can shoot your gun, and some guns have like an active ability you can use on them. So sometimes that'll be like, you know, like upgrade a little bit of damage for the rest of this room, but it costs something, or it's like, you know, throw an extra bomb or something. So they kind of augment how you play, but really it's mostly just moving and shooting, and that's all you need to worry about. But what makes it a lot more complicated is that there are bullets everywhere, there are lasers going off, everything's bright, there's tons of enemies flying around. It can get a little bit hectic.
So I'm watching the gameplay right now as we speak. This does look hectic, and I'll tell you something. This looks like if Enter the Gungeon was a 2D side scroller, this is exactly the same game, but it's like this looks awesome.
Absolutely. It reminded me immediately of Enter the Gungeon. It's just that it's instead of top down, it's 2D, and the aesthetic is really neat. Like it's kind of got that like
looks good.
Almost like cyberpunk, but in a kind of like indie, like funny way. Like the game's main draw for me, I think, after having played a bit, is definitely all of the equipment and the like bizarre nature of what's going on. So a lot of the guns and the upgrades you get are rather silly, or they're like fun references to other games. So for example, there's a bunch of like music guns, and there's like a big trumpet that shoots out music notes. And a couple of the items, you can get like a Big Daddy helmet, and it actually like you wear it like a Big Daddy from BioShock, which is super cool. And there's like an upgrade I got last night that was called a Stark module, and it gives you extra damage on your gun, but it's like very clearly Iron Man colors, and like that's pretty
cool.
cute.
That's cool.
Had a cute little text on it. They're like, Stark TM is not like liable for any damage you might receive or like something. So the game has a lot of personality. There isn't a ton of story going on, which is strange because the rest of the writing kind of implies that there would be. You do meet Hades, which is kind of the character that's getting you to go into these dungeons. And he makes a couple cute jokes. He makes the joke about how like, oh, there's another game called Hades, and like he's a pretty important character, and like, you know, so it's very like tongue in cheek, but really like there's not much justification. It's kind of just go down, shoot things. Um, so yeah, I think I was really warm on this game for the first couple hours I played. And it starts off, you start small, the game is kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of enemies, there's a lot going on. But as you start to play and you kind of, do the first couple runs where you get the feel of things, I found the difficulty just fell off a cliff. And I'm kind of at the point now where I've maybe played 8 hours and I'm starting to lose motivation based on the gameplay. And my motivation is more so on like collecting all the different guns and all the different items because they're fun and cute to find. But I think this game really struggles in terms of how strong your character becomes and how quickly that ramps up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in true roguelike fashion, you start every run just like with a basic gun. There's a couple different characters you can choose that they all function the same, but they have slight different tweaks. So the guy I like to play has a little bit less health, but he has a dodge roll. Big shocker, that's my guy. um, and so you go in, and at first you're not too strong, and you're kind of comparable with the enemies. But once you get about halfway through a run, I find that I just have so many items that are giving me so much extra weapon damage, so many passive buffs. I have like tons of money that I can go into any shop and buy whatever I want. Half the time I'm buying things just for the sake of seeing what they are, not because like
And
I
not because you
actually
need
think
it.
I might need them. And I have like so much health. I've got shields. And you get these one thing I do really like is you get these things called they're like eggs. And they like follow you around, they fly after you. And once you beat a certain amount of enemies, they have a chance to hatch and they turn into these like cute little creatures that are they either like fight in battle with you or they give you like passive effects. And so there's a setting in the game that's like, do you want to limit the amount of eggs you can have, yes or no? And I was like,
Who
I'm just gonna
clicks
leave it the
no?
default set. Well, I was gonna leave it the default setting, which is yes. I was like, okay, maybe like whatever. Like I didn't think too much about it. But as I'm playing, I'm like, I have like 15 eggs at one point. Like this is so ridiculous. And they trail after your characters like eggs are my whole screen. Like it's insane. And so I was like, maybe I should turn the egg, maybe I should limit the eggs. Like this is getting kind of ridiculous. I'm already so strong. I don't need 15 creatures following me and helping. And I go into the menu, and that setting is like, I am limiting the eggs. It's like, how many
Holy
eggs
shit, how
do
many
they
is it?
think you can have? So it gets a little insane. And so the problem is now by the time you're halfway through a dungeon, you have 15 little eggs following you around. You have so many items, and you have guns that do like massive spread shots and AoE damage, and they're really cool. But you just kind of wipe a room. And you don't really have to play very intelligently. If you tank a hit or two, it doesn't matter because there's so many health drops. And I feel like half the time in like the last quarter of a level, I don't even really get to know what the enemies are doing because I just walk in the room and they die. And maybe
Geez,
they
that's
have
pretty
other
extreme.
functions, but like they just die. And it is a problem with the bosses too, is that I found the first boss in the game and the first couple mini bosses were the hardest challenge I've ever had because now I'm just so incredibly strong that even if the boss has some really cool moves, which some of them do, some of them have really like neat designs and they kind of play off of like mythology but also like technology and they're really interesting, but I kill them in like 4 seconds. And I don't really feel like I get to appreciate them. And I also don't feel like I'm getting better as a player. I'm just so unevenly matched with where I feel like I should be at any point in the game. And
That's too bad because it looks like the game. Just watching this little bit on YouTube is like looks like tons of fun. It looks like like you
yeah,
said, fun style, fun gameplay. The enemies look interesting, but yeah, if they're dying that quick, then wow.
yeah. And it really is a shame because I think the game is really solid and the gameplay's fun. And I know I looked up some of it and some people were complaining that you didn't get enough currency and maybe the game was a little bit harsh before. So I wonder if maybe they made some changes that kind of tipped it too far on the other end of the scale where now it's taken out the tension and it's a little bit too favored for the player. So what I was thinking, what I would really like for them to do And I think what would save the game for me is if you had limited inventory slots. Because as you're going around, as long as you're looking at every room, which when I play roguelike, I usually do because I like finding all like the equipment, I like having all the currency, and
Filling
it's
the
just
map.
filling the map, and it's just fun. Like that's the whole point of the game, right? Is exploring and fighting all these enemies. So as you go, you end up with like not exaggerating, like 30 different things in your inventory. And not all of them are helping because some of them are like, oh, melee damage is better, and some are like, you fire faster with a ranged weapon. So those are not compatible. But you end up with so many items, and so many of them stack on top of each other and just get ridiculous levels of powerful, that if there was a limit, like say you maybe only had 10 slots and you had to be careful about what you were picking up, and then when you found something you wanted, you had to assess like what was going to be the most useful for you at that time. I think that would really fix the problem I have with the game, and also add in an element of an interesting choice to make as you're going through. And then you have to decide like, well, what am I really building towards versus I have 50 upgrades, my gun does literally everything. I can't see what the enemies are doing because I'm shooting like neon lasers everywhere. Like it's just me and
Yeah.
my 15 eggs. And
Interesting.
so,
Yeah, that's a good proposal, actually. I think that could, I mean, that sounds like it would solve the problem somewhat.
yeah,
I mean,
I think
yeah.
it would be better for me. And I've tried, you can't drop items either, so I can't even like self-impose that on myself. So it would just be like, don't pick things up. But that doesn't
That
feel
just
great
feels wrong.
either.
That feels, yeah,
Yeah,
that feels worse than not filling the map.
exactly. So I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship with it. I think the game still has a little bit of novelty for me in terms of like really fun to find these, new weapons, and all the references are really cute. Like there's a Game of Thrones one in a weapon that I found the other night, and so there's lots of stuff from a bunch of different types of media. And the upgrade between levels is nice. You kind of go back to this bar between runs, and you can spend your money on different skill trees. So you have a little bit of choices to like how you want to progress, whether that's like new items that become available in the run, or buying new characters, or adding different rooms to the dungeons. So I've added a couple that are fun. There's like a little like slot machine game I can play, and there's also one that's my favorite. It's a piano, and you have to like jump on the keys in the right order to play the
Oh, it's like a
music.
Simon Says thing or something?
Yeah, well, it kind of like shows you. It's almost like a rhythm game where like the notes come towards you, but you have to like actually
Gotcha.
jump on the
Yeah.
keys. And so like the game has a lot of cute little things like that are like fun and novel, but I feel like my love of the game is a bit shallow, and I'm gonna kind of run out of motivation to really progress that much further.
Well, I've got it
So
downloading on Xbox now. I've done that as we've been speaking. So I will maybe check in with it a
good.
bit and see if I feel the same.
Good, absolutely. And I think Xbox Game Pass is exactly the kind of platform that works for this sort of game, because it's great fun for the first 5 hours. But I feel like I would have been a little bit disappointed if I'd paid the like $20 price tag for it. But getting it on a humble bundle and playing it on Game Pass, I totally think it's really fun, like cute time, but it just doesn't have the longevity I was hoping for it to have. And instead, it really just made me feel like I need to go back and actually finish Enter the Gungeon. So
Yeah, you should.
that might be coming from me soon.
That's definitely a distinction that I've thought of listening to you talk about this, is like Gungeon just feels hard all the time. And I know like
Hmm.
if when I was playing a lot, like I definitely was a lot better than I would be now, but it was definitely because I was getting better at dodging the bullets and getting more familiar with, oh, these enemies move in this pattern, or oh, I've been in this room before, so I know what's going to be here. It wasn't you never end up getting like way overpowered in Gungeon,
Yeah,
compared
exactly.
to something like this.
And I feel like that's the intention from a lot of these games, or at least that's what interests me. Is I like that feeling of like I've gotten better, I've progressed, I've learned. Like like you can look at my laundry list of games I play, that seems to be a trend. But I find that really satisfying, and I like that kind of like when you first come into something like this is so hard, I don't know how I'm gonna beat that, and then you look back after 15 hours, and you're like, oh shit, like that doesn't scare me anymore, and it's fun, it's satisfying, you feel like you're really in control. And I think that this game, maybe, I don't know if they didn't intend for that, and it was more
Maybe
about the
just a different
power
take,
fantasy.
different take on the genre.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell. Like I definitely think there's a bit of like a power fantasy element to this game, which just doesn't interest me personally. But I also think that it is a little bit of a misstep in terms of where the balancing comes into it. And so I think this game maybe just doesn't have quite the level of polish that something like Gungeon has. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a shame
Interesting.
because there's a lot of potential for it.
Well, we'll check back in when I play it if I get around to that. I'm sure I will. So we'll see. Kate, I want to tell you about Aliens Fireteam Elite because I've been playing this for a bit now. This is that 3-person co-op Aliens game. I don't know if you've seen much of this. I think it was it was a smaller release. It's not like a huge thing, but this is a game. I mean, I've had a couple friends that are very big Aliens fans, and that's something that I'm not. I've never really seen. I think I've seen Aliens like one time, or I've seen Alien versus Predator.
Have you seen the first one, just Alien?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay,
But I mean, I've seen it so long
really
ago.
good.
Like, it is good. It's really cool. But I wouldn't say I'm an Alien fan. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
I've never seen the other ones. You know, like I don't know much about the franchise. But I was just kind of coming into this in terms of it's a fun 3-person specifically for 3 people co-op game. Kind of like what's that other one we played? Remnant from the Ashes. That's for 3 as well. But yeah, this is a cool game. And I mean, it's not often you can have something so that pulls off the vibe, like that tense horror kind of vibe that is more action focused. I think we talked about that a bit with like Resident Evil a few episodes ago, but this game just has a great level of tension for me, and I think that's the most important thing I wanted to start off with talking about it is just especially the music. Like, you know, in horror movies and they have those string instruments like the violins, and it's like really tense. And when things are crawling towards you, those violins are getting faster. Like, they use that exact effect in this game, and these aliens are just swarming everywhere. Like, there's so many of them all the time, and you're just trying to survive. And yet it's very action focused, right? Like, you're always shooting, you're working as a team. It's very offensive most of the time, but it does a great job of keeping that kind of tension. And it's not just because of the sound; it's also because of kind of the way the game plays. But so yeah, this is basically it's a 3-person co-op action game, similar to like going through a Borderlands, I guess, just more focused in its level design. It's smaller levels, you know, you're in corridors, you're underground, you're in spaceships, and you're going through and you're completing objectives. I'm very, very confused about the story. I'm not even going to try to tell you about it because I really just don't. This game, I think, requires a bit of prior Aliens knowledge that I just don't have. But the action stuff just pairs very, very well with the tense atmospheres. And so it's class based. Of course, I'm playing the medic, as I really like to do. So we have a bunch of classes. Yeah, there's a medic, there's a heavy class, there's the gunner, which is just kind of, you know, the everyman kind of rifle guy. And then there's a mechanic that can kind of put down turrets and whatnot as well. So it's a good mix of different classes. There's also more coming out DLC wise as well. But they synergize really well together, and it is good to find you know, different ways to tackle different missions with different classes.
And how many classes are there to choose from? Is it like a wide variety?
There's 4 of them right now, which is medic, heavy, gunner, mechanic, and then once you beat the campaign, there's a 5th one that gets unlocked, which is a recon class, and I guess they can kind of look through walls and see like where the aliens are coming from. So it sounds quite powerful. Maybe that's why it's
they got the wall hacks
locked behind the campaign. And then there's going to be more coming from DLC as well. I'm not sure what those are. But I think it's important that they have very distinct classes, because one of the things about this game is the campaign is only four missions long, and each mission is broken into 3 sections, which are fairly substantial. Like, I would say it's about maybe half an hour per section, depending how you're doing. So it's not like super content light, but definitely if you want to sit down and play this for, you know, anything beyond maybe 10-15 hours, you're probably going to be replaying these same levels a lot. And so having all the different classes to unlock and customize with, you know, different guns you can buy and different abilities they can have, it adds to a lot of replayability, similar to Hitman, right? I think it's like it's dense in a small package of stuff rather than, you know, more shallow content. So I like that a lot. So the classes themselves are very customizable as well. Like, so my medic class, it has every class has kind of a primary weapon and a secondary weapon that they can hold. So my primary is a rifle, and then I've got a pistol I can have as my offhand weapon. And then everyone has their special ability, which is for the medic, it's a healing canister. That's like the thing that I like the most about this entire game, actually, I think, is the way that the medic works. It's very, very unique. So you carry this canister around on your back, and you can put it on the ground at any time, and it kind of creates this aura around it, and anyone can go stand in there and get healed. It's pretty normal like that. But I feel like most games usually work on like a cooldown for that kind of ability, right? Or
yes.
something like that. Whereas this game is just like, you know what? The canister has 4,000 hit points of health in it. And when you've healed that much, it's over. Like, you can't heal anymore. You can only heal that many times. So you're sitting there all the time and like, oh man, we're only at half capacity left for the rest of this part of the mission. Like, we gotta conserve this in case we need it later. So it adds like an extra element of like trying to manage another resource on top of my ammo.
That's interesting because, yeah, normally it will either be on a cooldown, which means you get to kind of use it freely, or it's on like a charge system. So that means either like you hold on to it and then you're like, oh, there's another charge. Okay, we'll put it down here so that we can pick up that other charge. And then you kind of almost like use it based off of like when you're finding them, not based off of like when they're actually necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's a very different.
I like that. I like that, you know, up front, and it's like, you have to manage this resource. There's no getting around it.
Exactly, and it's very specific. Like, I have to manage it as the medic. It's not like a team thing either. It makes it, you feel almost more important as the medic compared to other games. And the other thing that's cool, like the only way to restore health in the canister is to pick up med kits off the ground, because every class can hold one med kit with them for one heal for themselves. But kind of how we've learned to manipulate this is I actually pick up all the med kits and just use them to heal people even for insignificant amounts of health, because when I pick up a med kit off the ground, it also restores the canister a bit. So we're actually kind of double dipping the health resource. So that's really cool. But it doesn't always even work out, because the health kit drops are so few and far between on some levels. And that's another thing that adds to the tension here is they have this amazing ability to know just when you're going to run out of ammo. There's an ammo drop ahead of you. And I know, like, at first I thought, like, well, they're just doing this. A lot of games do this. It drops ammo only when you're low to encourage you to keep, you know, you're always running out until you're not. But this game is not like that. The ammo drops are not random. They're placed at specific points in the levels. So they literally have like mapped it out to a science, kind of how many bullets you're going to need to get to each specific part. I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they're putting more or less aliens at you in whatever areas, so you just have to shoot more or less. I'm not sure, but it's very interesting how it works out.
Or maybe your group is just the perfect like
or the
level
optimal
of
players.
Skill. You're the optimal. They designed it like for you. The play testers were like your group, but like all with mustaches.
Yeah, and like fake sunglasses.
Yes. And you've just nailed this one. Like you crit this one. It's so lucky. Every now and again that happens in a game, I find. And you're like, this game was made for me.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's not without its flaws. Like I said, it is pretty content light. I think they might be adding some more levels and whatnot in DLC as well. But I would say that it's definitely not like, you know, it's not the most robust game, especially if you're not okay with replaying things. One other thing that it does too, like in terms of, I mentioned you're going to be replaying the levels a lot if you want to make, you know, a lot of progress, get your monies out of it, is it also has these things like modifier cards you can pick. And so it's like a risk reward thing you can choose. You can go through and everyone can pick a card and you kind of decide as a group what you want to use, but it'll be things like, you know, you gain a 1.5 times experience, but you can't use your sidearm weapon. Or no health kits, but you gain like double money or something like that. And so it's little ways to change it up. And some of them, like if you can't use your sidearm, you actually have to play quite a lot differently. So it can affect how you're playing as well. And they do things like there's collectibles in the levels that get kind of put in different places if you replay every time. Like they generate into different spots, so you don't exactly always know exactly where you're looking for stuff. So they've tried their best with that. And I think for the most part, they're doing a good enough job. But I definitely think for someone like we probably played, that 15-hour-ish mark. I'm beginning to be like, you know, how much more are we going to play? Like, how many more times is this exact specific group of 3 people going to get together for this, you know, specific thing we've done before? So yeah, I think it's a good game, but you have to have a group that's going to be willing to know what this is before getting into it, I think.
Is it possible to play with less people, or does it just like match make you or like put you with a bot.
No, you get bots. You get bots.
Yeah.
And the bots are, man, you know what? The first time we played, we only had 2 of us, so our third person was the bot, and we were struggling. It was tough. Like that bot, you get your stats at the end of the mission, right? And they were not pulling their weight, and we were getting kind of slammed, to be honest. And it didn't work out super well because I was the medic and my friend was playing as the mechanic who puts down the turret. And so we could really lock down an area super nicely, because the turret gets put down, the healing canister gets put down. I've got some effects on my canister too, where like if aliens come into the range, it weakens them, so that's like really, really helpful. But I mean, we had like no attack power, so our friend comes in next time and he's the gunner, and all of a sudden we have this like kill machine on our team and we're locking down this area, so it worked out way, way better. You can play with the bots, but I mean I wouldn't want to play this by myself with 2 bots, I'll tell you that. They're not good enough for that. The amount of stuff you have to deal with. But if you have 1 friend, preferably 2, check it out. I think it's not even a full price game either. I think it's one of those like $50 games, maybe 40, 45. So it was worth it. I think it was a good purchase, but yeah, beware what you're getting into, but definitely recommend. Although, Kate, I want to tell you about one more game. And this one last game here is definitely, and I'm going to say something bold here at the start. This is in the running for my game of the year this year.
Wow, that's ambitious for any title, let alone, because I know what you're going to talk about. And this is like a cute indie title. And it's not that indies can't be game of the year, but it's not the kind of thing that I thought would have stood out. So please tell me about this game.
I must. This is of course Dodgeball Academia from Pocket Trap. And I think this is Pocket Trap's first kind of mainstream kind of game. They have another one called Ninja Clash of Carrots. I've never heard of that. I don't know if it's mobile or what, but this is kind of a coming out party for them, in my opinion. Dodgeball Academia. This is a great game, Kate. I something you said earlier about Neon Abyss is that it has lots of personality, and this game is brimming with personality as well. Dodgeball. It's one of those worlds, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, how everything in the whole world revolves around the card game. Like if you're in court with someone, it's like, are you guilty or not? I don't know, man. Are you going to beat this guy in a duel? Like you're going to find out that, like everything is about Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And this game, absolutely. Everything is about dodgeball. So it's about a group of kids at a dodgeball university. I mean, they're elementary school kids. It's probably an elementary school, but they're in dodgeball school, and they are literally just, all the classes are about different dodgeball techniques or how to build your strength or stamina. Like you don't spend a lot of time in class, but that's kind of the world is just so overtaken by this one specific sport.
This concept is very dubious, because even in like Yu-Gi-Oh or like Pokemon, where like that is literally all people care about, those are at least little things a little bit more like fleshed out, or a little bit more like there's a little more to do with them than dodgeball. Seems like a pretty simple game.
I you know what, I agree with you, but in this world they've changed my mind. So the premise is, I guess, your main character Otto, his dad did not want him to come to the school because he wanted him to go to referees school, because they've been a family of referees, because of course the only other thing you can do if you're not a dodgeball player, you got to ref the games.
Right.
But Otto, of course, it's logical. So he comes to dodgeball school and basically is told, if you don't make it to the end of the year and you're not the top student, or your team doesn't win the trophy, then you have to go back to ref school. And that's kind of you're playing you're at Dodgeball Academia, and can you do it? Can you not? You'll have to wait and see at the end. But this game it's an RPG, right? It's a turn-based, it's not turn-based, it's an RPG. It's got level up stuff. It's very based on Pokemon. It's very based on, a lot of different indie type of experiences, but Pokemon is such a big influence to this game. Like you have a team of 6 dodgeball players by the end of it. The battles work in a very similar way. Like you'll be walking through the areas of the school, and you'll cross eyes with one of the students kind of standing there, and they'll challenge you to a dodgeball match. Even the way the screen transitions from like being on the map into a battle, it has like those black bars that come down, and it kind of has like, and then the music starts, and it's like, this is so Pokemon to me. So I think that's like such a welcoming little right. It's kind of almost like
nostalgic without being like tied to the franchise.
A little bit, yeah. But it's not even just that too. Like the way the game looks is, for those of you that haven't seen it, it's very, very Paper Mario in its appearance also. in terms of like the graphics, the art style is not the same, but it's the same in terms of like your characters are 2D and all the objects are 2D, but they're in a 3D environment. And so it just works together really nicely. Like I feel like characters pop. They have this great cartoony kind of anime aesthetic. That kind of framey animation. Yeah.
You showed me the game as well, and it is very colorful. Like, it is a very visually pleasing game. I will definitely say that stuck out in my mind about it.
Yeah, it's just pleasant to look at, you know, like even when popping into the menu, like the buttons are all big and colorful and there's like fun backgrounds and it's just like eye candy playing this game the whole time. And so, yeah, the art style is it's just perfect for what the game's trying to go. And it matches the tone of the game perfectly as well, which is very much, you know, it's almost like Saturday morning cartoony kind of, maybe not quite as silly, but because it tries to hit those heartfelt moments, right? But it's very like, you know, kid friendly, like shonen kind of anime, like we can do this against the world kind of vibe. But it works just perfectly. And the cast of characters they have is great. Like there's a main character and you meet, you know, the fiery girl kind of character. And then there's the bully that turns good and a few other ones and like a few unexpected characters as well. And it's not just the people in your party. It's also the supporting cast is so hilarious. And there's countless little references or like side comments, or there's even one like you know, like in Pokemon there's that famous trainer is like, I like short, they're comfy and easy to wear. And someone says that to you in this game, to go back to like another Pokemon reference. But there's just a lot of those. It's one of those indie games that is very cheeky and it tries to reference stuff a lot. And honestly, it hits more often than not. And I'm usually pretty skeptical about like humor and stuff in games, but this is good.
So that's cute. That kind of like fits in my kind of, I could picture me replacing Neon Abyss with something like this in my like, I have an hour before bed. Like it's too late to play like a big game that I really feel like I'm invested in. But like I want to sit down and have a wholesome, like, you know, I'm tired after work. Like it seems like one of those just really like nice rainy day relaxing games, but also has like the content to back it up and make you actually finish the game.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, what I haven't told you about yet is the actual dodgeball, which is the whole core of the game. So, it's interesting. This is an RPG. Like your characters are leveling up, you're gaining experience points. Different characters have different stats. You can get equipment for them that, you know, 10% attack power from these gloves, or your ultimate ability charges faster. You know, all these different things. And the dodgeball itself is actually, it's not turn based. It's an actual game you're playing. Like there's a dodgeball court that appears on the screen and you get a team of 3 characters. You have 6 total by the end of the game, but you pick 3 and you're controlling one and the other 2 kind of follow you around on the court. So you're actually, as you're getting like balls thrown at you, you're actually dodging them in real time. And then you can also have an option to catch it or deflect it, depending which character you are. And in real dodgeball, I guess, doesn't that usually like bring one of your teammates back or something? But in this game, that adds to your special ability meter, because you also have one of those building up as well for some ultimate attacks you can do. Rather than just like regular throws of when you pick up the balls. And then everyone has a health bar. So you're pretty much just trying to lower people's health, just like any other RPG. It's just instead of swords and magic, you're throwing dodgeballs at each other, and it's lots of fun. And there's, you know, eventually different dodgeballs come into it. Like there's the standard ones, but there's also fire dodgeballs where you get hit by that, your character's burnt and then they're taking damage over time, or a stun one and a few others. They've got, there's other ones that like home in on you. There's just a good variety in it. The game is always mixing it up. Like it's not a very long game. I think I probably beat the whole thing in like 10, 12 hours or so, but the entire time you're always just getting introduced to new concepts, whether it's you know, a new kind of dodgeball or a character with a special ability you've not seen that's like a weird homing shot, or like one character that throws a ball and it goes invisible, so you have to time the catch or the dodge instead of getting it right, and instead of being able to see. So there's just such a great variety for a game that is that length. Like it doesn't overstay its welcome at all. I'm really glad that it wasn't, you know, they weren't like, oh, let's add another you know, half a game worth of chapters to this.
Right,
and
exactly. Here's like 50 side quests to do. Like,
It gets dry, right? And there are side quests and stuff in this game, but honestly, they were compelling. Like There was one, there's like an
Mhm.
underground place you get to go to where there's like underground dodgeball games where there's no rules, like you don't stay on half of the court, like you can go anywhere you want. And so
Oh,
you're trying to like win
that's just
that.
anarchy.
That's just complete anarchy. Could you believe they would do that in the dodgeball world?
I couldn't. How are you gonna dodge that ball? Like
It's just, I know someone could be right beside you. It's crazy. But they do it. They do it. And there's, a few different areas you go to in the school. They all have different side quests, different characters. There's like a forest and the underground place. And I think it's just such a great self-contained little package. It would be like playing a Pokemon game, to continue with that reference, if it was, densely packed with several different Pokemon and it only had 4 gyms instead of 8 or something. Like it's just such a nice compressed little package. I would recommend it to like literally anyone to check out, unless you're like, oh, that's a kid's game. I just want to play
or
Call of Duty.
or you like dodgeball's not a real sport. Like I play exclusively badminton. Dodgeball's no good.
yeah, that too. I think my only complaint with the game in general, and it's not even really a complaint, would be because it's an RPG. Like you're obviously leveling up. You've characters have different skills, and like for one example, my healer, he would put down like a healing aura on the ground. If you stand in it, you gain your health back. And so when you level up, you're gaining upgrades to that skill. But it by the end, by like 2, maybe even less than that, maybe halfway or even before that throughout the game, you kind of stop gaining new skills, and instead it just becomes, oh, the healing radius is slightly bigger now, or oh, this move does slightly more damage now. And they just become like higher numbers on the same things you're already doing. So the mechanics of it don't always change. In terms of leveling up, and in a lot of RPGs, that's probably one of my favorite aspects about them, right? Is like when you level up, what's the new skill you're going to get? Are you going to be able to swap out your basic lightning attack for a better one? But in this game, it's just the same one, just does more damage.
Right. So it doesn't feel meaningful. It just feels like, well, like you're always the right level for the challenge, but like it might as well just be the enemies are the same level and you're always the same level because you're doing
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
same thing.
It's kind of a level up system for level up sake in some ways. Like there are differences. You do unlock some things, but I would say the majority of them are kind of just those lesser kind of upgrades. So I would like to see them. I really hope this gets a sequel. I hope they continue to do more, but I would like to see them maybe
like
work.
High school?
Yeah, Dodgeball High School.
Yeah,
makes sense. And then they can do Dodgeball College, and it'll be perfect.
Dodgeball,
That can have dating sim aspects.
Okay, yeah,
see?
absolutely. Or you date someone on the other team, and then it's like, oh no, do you
Yeah,
throw the match? You know,
yeah.
it's all sorts of issues they could have.
Yeah, I hope it comes to fruition, though. Honestly, like I don't know how much more you can say about this game. Like it kind of just is what it is. It's dodgeball matches going around the school. A lot of the quests are kind of like go over here, beat these 3 people in a match, come back to me, type of quest. Like nothing really super complex going on there. I mean, the game is really just about its characters, and then the dodgeball itself is actually just really fun and it's challenging. Like I lost a few matches here and there. Like it's by no means is it super easy, but by the end I was getting pretty good. Which is nice. And the other thing too, I've not tried out, but it would be kind of cool, is this game has a multiplayer mode too. As you meet characters and get them on your team and whatnot throughout the story, they become unlocked for multiplayer modes. So it'd be kind of fun to check out like what that's like, if that's any fun, or if that's just like the game's totally different with a human player. I really don't know, but it could be fun. So little bonus on there.
Overall, it sounds like a really cute game, and it's definitely one of those ones that, like, when I eventually cave for a Game Pass, I know that it's on there.
Yeah, you got to check it out. I think it's a bit of a slow burn. Like for the first chapter or 2, I was probably like, this is fun, but am I going to see it all the way through? There's so much else to play. And then I kind of just got to this point where everything kind of hit. And in an RPG, when they do the level up music, and it's like, you always like to hear that because you've gotten stronger, like or like the victory screen for winning a match. The music in this game I didn't talk about it, but it's great. And that music is just like, you can't get enough of that victory screen music. You're like, yeah, I win again. And it's so satisfying.
Yeah. Oh, this sounds like a game that you just like can't help but smile. Like it just seems so wholesome.
Yeah, it's great, and it's on everything too. I think it's on PlayStation, Xbox. It'd be great on Switch. I think it's on there too. So like Switch I would say, is probably even the best place to play this. I think it'd be great handheld.
I picture this on a handheld 100%. Yeah.
So yeah, check it out. Give it a go for sure, because whether Game Pass or not, like that's the best place, I guess, Game Pass, but it's worth your money too on PlayStation if you have the time and the money. So definitely check it out. But yeah, Kate, I think that's what we've been playing. So that was a long what we've been playing segment, but well worth it. Some good
We've been
good
playing
games.
a lot of good games.
So yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes for the news. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you then. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second part of today's show, where we have two news stories to go through today. The first of which is there was a new PlayStation 5 firmware update that came out, and this is, yeah, I know, firmware update, not super exciting, we get it, okay? But there's some cool stuff in here, and I think overall, like looking at this list, Kate, we're not going to go through the whole list. You guys can go look it up if you really want to look down 25 different points of PlayStation firmware updates. That's not great content, but overall, to me, like I think this seems like a lot of stuff that was promised kind of at the start of the console's life cycle and maybe wasn't around during, you know, the start of what the PlayStation 5 generation was. So this kind of feels to me now like this is at where they would have probably liked it to be on launch, you know, but things I'm sure get pushed back in COVID and all that. But I mean, to me, I'm excited to see some of the stuff on here, but how do you feel? Anything really jumping out?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the case. Especially when you mentioned like one of the things on here is the 3D audio for TV speakers, which I know is something that they like talked about a lot when the console was coming out and how it was going to like kind of like emulate that sort of surround sound, but even if you just have like basic TV speakers, and it was going to be something kind of baked into the console.
I'm excited to try that out, actually. I want to see how good that is, because I'm so skeptical that that's going to be any different, but I mean, I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, like, it's one of those things that does sound like a gimmick, but the whole DualSense sounded like a gimmick, and that's blown our minds. So
that's a good point. That's true.
Cautiously optimistic. So those exist, and the other things just kind of seem like little quality of life things. Like the trophies look a little bit different now, and people are thinking they're a bit clearer, and that's nice. One of the ones I think you pointed out to me, which is funny, and I think we both have an experience with this, is that it's more defined when a game on the store page is a PS5 or a PS4 game.
Yeah, and your homepage too, which is great, finally.
Yeah, I think that's really nice because I find that it was tough to tell otherwise. And I remember like when we played the Back 4 Blood beta with our friends at Loud Thumbs, or I played with Loud Thumbs, I think maybe you played with another group.
I think I had to, whatever.
Anyway, yeah, we'd all tried that out because it was, you know, an exciting game that had a free demo. But I ended up downloading both the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 copy by mistake. And so I had both of them, and then I had to like make sure I was picking the right one every time, and it was just sort of awkward. Like, why wouldn't it just default to whatever console you're using?
It's been such a struggle.
Asks you every time. It was really strange, and I just like without like autopilot went through it and was like, what? Why do I have two?
I know. I was in the same position with some other game, and I also had it even just recently buying the Icky Island DLC for Tsushima. I was going through the PlayStation Store, and I was just like, okay, which version am I getting here? Like, what is this? Which is this the right one? Like, I've got to pay money here. Like, I got to make sure I don't buy the wrong one. Like, you know, that shouldn't be a concern that you have. Like, you know, that should be, I mean, recently, like, people know I got an Xbox, and I mean, I'm still very much, I think PlayStation's a better experience overall, but Xbox makes it so easy to just, you'll never get the wrong thing. Like, is this the game you want? Yes. Okay, this is the right version, because when you buy it, you just get the one, it knows which console you're on, and it just gives you that one. And I just don't know, like, why PlayStation makes it so difficult, but this at least improves that a bit, for sure. So that's nice. I also want to shout out too, there's on the same line as the sound, there's also the Pulse headset. There's a EQ customization now too, which I'm excited to go fiddle around with later on. That could be kind of nice. But yeah, overall just some, you know, quality of life kind of stuff. The trophies I think are going to make a lot of people happy, changing that. And I think you can customize the little menu bar at the bottom now a little bit more than you could before. I haven't tried it, but apparently you can. So that'd be kind of nice, because it's kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about the firmware update other than let's hope it doesn't brick consoles or some weird shit like that. Like,
oh my god! Do not be in the middle of a Returnal run, whatever you do.
Oh god, no, please. Let's talk about our second news story then, Kate, which is that it has been confirmed by one Cory Barlog, the Sony Santa Monica director of God of War, that the God of War Norse Saga will only have 2 games. It's not going to be a trilogy. And, you know, you and I were just talking on that last episode we had there for our reaction to the showcase about how we're making predictions about God of War being a trilogy and how many realms we're going to see in all this. And then we get the news it's only going to be 2 games, which is interesting. And you know, the part of this article that really stuck out to me, this is over at IGN, for those of you that want to check it out, is the reason why they're just saying these games just take so long to make. You know, like he was saying it's 5 years in production for each one, and it's like, are you going to really spend 15 years of your career? I mean, I'm really parsing words here, so definitely go read it. But 15 years of your career creating this one kind of trilogy, like that's a long time. And so I think that's one thing people really don't think about in terms of like how it affects the developers in that way. So it's interesting to hear them come out and say this and confirm it's going to be just 2 games. So yeah, interesting stuff to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, to take into consideration when it's something, I mean, obviously there's so many people that have worked on God of War and are working on the sequel, and it's not to take away like their accomplishments and what they've brought to the table, but some like Cory Barlog is such a big person in this God of War, in these God of War games, and I know that he's kind of taken a slightly different role into than he did in 2018. But you know, like to keep the games kind of feeling like a cohesive unit, there's so many people that are crucial to be working on each iteration of it. And so like, yeah, that's a lot of people to commit to 15 years of your life dedicated to one game and one story and like one set of characters. So that is kind of like a human element that comes into it. Or like, yeah, maybe in a perfect world we could have had more Norse God of War, but you know, like you totally understand it at the same time. And I'm always of the opinion that like I'd rather have less of something and have it be its highest quality content than to get double the amount, but it, you know, it starts to lack a bit. So
yeah, 100%, 100%.
I'm sure that comes into as well, and the story that they want to tell is something that can be wrapped up in 2 games, and it's better not to force it to be 3. But at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, as someone who likes God of War, like, oh, it would have been nice to have. I never want it to end.
yeah. I mean, a couple things though. Like they say Norse God of War. Like I don't think this game is, you know, this is such a successful franchise on so many different levels. But the first game was such a success, and I really expect the second one to be the same. I mean, this is not going to be the end of God of War. I don't expect it's just going to be a different version coming after this, whatever that ends up being. Or at least I would think. But the other thing too is like we never really knew this was going to be a trilogy. The only reason I think we would even think that is because trilogy just seems kind of like this is the default, you know, things usually just end up being trilogies. And if, like you said, if they can tell this story in 2 games, then that's going to be, maybe that's what they envisioned from the start, you know, maybe it always was meant to be a back-to-back 2 game event. And maybe that's what it was. And it's kind of in that way, I guess this is non-news in some sense, but I don't know if we'll ever know that, but either way, like this game I'm expecting is just going to be balls to the walls crazy now that we know it's the end of this saga. Like, holy shit, I cannot wait to play Ragnarok.
Oh, absolutely. And like when we were talking about it before and making some predictions on the last show, we were talking about what things we thought we'd see. And I know one of the points that you brought up was that you don't think that we would see Asgard because you thought they would be saving that for like the grand finale. And now, well, this is the grand finale. And
exactly.
So
that changes that a lot.
That changes everything. And like this game is like, it was going to be huge before, but knowing that this is the end of, maybe not God of War in general, but I think at the very least the end of Kratos' story, this game is going to be huge. And I was excited for it before, but like, oh my God, like just shivers thinking about playing this game. Like, I don't like to day one purchase or pre-order, but this is a day one purchase and pre-order.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think we said it last time too. This is like maybe take a few days off of work kind of game here. Honestly, like this.
Yes.
Man, I can't wait. Now, here's a question just before we get out of the news section here. knowing that we know now, like God of War, definitely Ragnarok was one of the, if it wasn't the most anticipated game in video games, it was definitely in like the top 5, right? Of games that we know are happening. Elden Ring, Starfield, whatever else you want to put in there, Halo.
Mm-hmm.
But with the news that this is the finale of this story, do you think this could be considered, like, is this the biggest game people are waiting for now that we know it's the conclusion? I don't know. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head right now. I guess it depends who you ask, right? But if you were to poll like the average video game fan, I wonder what they would say. I honestly think this might be it. Honestly, with this news.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta throw my Elden Ring bias aside, because obviously, like, that's my, like, I have a daily countdown for that on my phone. Like, that is the biggest thing right now. And Elden Ring is massive. Like, it's not to say that
for sure. It's not to take away, but I just mean, like, the news that this is the finale for Kratos, so that's got to mean something.
I think that this has a slightly larger reach to it. I feel like this kind of God of War is something that more, like, a wider amount of people have been involved in or influenced by. And I think the only thing that kind of takes it away is that because it's an exclusive, those people that don't have PlayStations have just been, like, playing on PC or like Xbox, or they have like a Switch, they're like, well, like, yeah, I know it's a big deal, but it doesn't mean anything to me. But I think this game was already, like, in contention for the most hype, like, game we know is coming out, has been confirmed. We actually, like, it exists. I think it was already there. This maybe, like, bumps it up a slight notch, but I think, like, you were excited for this game before you found out this news.
That's true. Well, if you have an opinion on that, guys, let us know. circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. Is God of War Ragnarok the most anticipated game right now? Of course, it's all a moot point, because when and if GTA 6 ever gets announced, that's it. That game just has that title till it comes out for everyone except the two of us. And that's the way forever it will be. But Kate, I think that's the end of our news section for today. So why don't we take one more quick break, and then we'll be back to talk about our favorite video game spin-offs, answer some listener mail, and get on out of here. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in just a second. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show for the third and final part of the show, where we're going to be talking about video game spin-offs and what are some of our favorites. What do we consider to be the best spin-offs we've played? And it got me thinking, Kate. I was kind of pondering, like, what should we talk about for the show today? And a lot of the biggest games in the world right now are spin-offs, if you think about it. Like, Fortnite is a spin-off of the Save the World mode in Fortnite, which was the original kind of mode for that game, until they saw PUBG and then made their own battle royale. There's Smash. It's like a spin-off of so many different franchises. People would say, like, Apex Legends is a spin-off of Titanfall. Persona's even a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. So there's, like, just so many examples. And then I was also thinking, like, man, Metroid's coming up soon, like Metroid Dread. I can't wait to play that. But there's Prime, that's a spin-off of Metroid. Metal Slug's got that tactics game coming out. There's just so many good examples of, like, games doing something different with their brand. And so it's really interesting to think about and go through and be like, what are the things I played that are even considered spin-offs? Like, I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like, where do you draw the line? Is Apex a spin-off or not? Like, it's interesting to think about that.
Yeah, it brings up a good point. Is, like, it's kind of, like, muddied, like, what exactly constitutes as a spin-off, and, like, when is it just kind of its own franchise, but it has, like, references to another game. And, like, Apex is a good one because, yeah, it's, like, in the Titanfall universe, but, like, is it, like, how related to Titanfall is it versus something like, like Persona, like, it really is, like, its own full-on, like, series now. So it's definitely an interesting question, and I just really find it, like, fun to have enhanced, where you have, like, it pulling from something, and maybe there's references or things like that are connecting it. And, like, one of the things I thought of, which is kind of funny because they're very much their own franchises, but, like, the Naughty Dog games sort of reference each other. So I remember playing, like, through The Last of Us and finding, like, a couple little nods to Uncharted.
Oh
And I
yeah,
think
yeah. And then in
vice versa,
Uncharted,
and it's
yeah.
like,
Hmm.
well, is The Last of Us technically an Uncharted spin-off? And like you can go all these like crackpot theories.
Well, yeah, too. Just because they're from the same studio, like that doesn't make it a spin-off, you know? Like,
No.
it's interesting, yeah. Anyway, I don't know, like I don't know where you want to start or what kind of games you thought to talk about. I mean, a good place to start for me would be Bloodborne. I think that's a spin-off. I mean, I don't know if you would classify it as one, but I mean, to me, it's very, very Souls adjacent, made by the same studio, but it's not. It doesn't have Souls in the name. It's so for me, it's like that is a spin-off.
Yeah, I think it's how you quantify spin-off. Spin-off, I think for me, how I pictured in my mind is something that like is still in the same franchise and
You like
just has
Mario Kart to like regular Mario, for
yeah,
example.
I
Yeah.
think something in the same franchise that has reformatted it. So yeah, like Mario Kart or like I was thinking like the Donkey Kong Country games were like the new like or like the new Metroid Prime and stuff. So like they're still like the same characters, but they're sort of like adjacent doing something else. Bloodborne's in this weird spot where like it's technically not related, but like obviously like the mechanics and what they learned from Dark Souls they brought into Bloodborne and like kind of like reskinned it and gave it a new like life. But then you could say like, well, Dark Souls is a spin-off of Demon Souls, and
Oh,
like,
true. That's true. But they're both Souls.
yeah,
See, Souls.
yeah. But then,
I don't know.
well, just because it's got
Yeah,
the name,
it's a slippery, slippery slope to discuss these
it is
things,
a
folks.
slippery slope. But I think it's interesting because like games are never created in a vacuum, and it's really neat to see what they pull from other games and other inspirations. And it's definitely interesting when it's the same studio and it's like you can clearly see like what they worked on before, what they liked, how they kind of like repurposed other mechanics into a new game. And I think like that's the strength of a spin-off and like what kind of makes it interesting as opposed to just making a totally new game is you get to kind of experience things in a different format. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about it when you brought up spin-offs, and I know Final Fantasy Tactics was the first thing both of us thought of because it's our
It
favorite
was.
Final Fantasy game, and I'll fight anyone to this day. It's the best one they've ever made.
Man,
But
I don't
I
know about
think
that. I think I got 7 Remake on my brain now, but that's just me,
that's
maybe.
true. 7 Remake, I've been enjoying it so far, but you know, the nostalgia is strong. And speaking of nostalgia, I was thinking about really successful spin-offs, and I think the best one I can think of is Pokemon Snap. I wanted to say
Wow.
Pokemon Conquest because oh boy, I wish that game was great.
Ugh, so
But
disappointed.
yes, but instead it's Pokemon Snap because I think that it's so different, right? Like it isn't. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe you could argue it is just using the Pokemon branding because it was so massive at the time and still is. But it really takes like kind of the core concept of what makes Pokemon special for so many people, which is those creatures. And it builds a totally different game, but with that same core concept at its like as the fundamental. And it works so incredibly well because the idea is like you're going along the rails, you're taking pictures of Pokemon, and it's kind of a puzzle game, like manipulating the Pokemon to take different types of shots or get them to open up different ways to progress in the level. But at the core, like you're there because you love Pokemon, you're excited to see them. It's super cool, and like, oh my god, that's a Magmar, and like I didn't think he'd show up here, and like, oh, you're the waterfall level, like, oh, what cool water Pokemon will I see? And like the Pokemon are really like the life of the series, like the creatures themselves. And I think it's so simple but creative how they managed to make another game work.
It's interesting you bring up Snap because I mean, Pokemon is a well of spin-offs, as anyone who follows the franchise remotely would know.
Mm-hmm.
There's just countless different spin-offs, but I wrote down Pokemon Stadium. To me, I thought that's the best spin-off they've had. Like, you know, Pokemon at the end of the day is about the creatures and about battling with the creatures, and that's distilled down so well into something like Pokemon Stadium. And then instead of the RPG stuff, and they add in you know, mini game modes and different kinds of tournaments you can enter and whatnot. So I think that was a great spin-off as well, in terms of like just kind of boiling down the essence of what the RPGs were, but into a more focused setting where they could have better graphics and do more with it. So I think that was an interesting one for Pokemon as well. Another one too. We wouldn't be Circles and Squares podcast without mentioning Crash Bash, which is of course the Crash spin-off that we all know and love. from earlier in the year. So that's another one too that is like completely different concept, right? That one's more of like, hey, Mario Party's pretty successful. maybe we should try and cash in on this kind of trend.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, and I made a note of, Crash Bash is obviously one of the ones that came to mind as well, because like I love that game. But I think that's like a spin-off in the sense of like, we want to make another game and we just threw Crash into it. Like, I don't really know how much, like, yeah, it's skinned really well, and like some of the games, like, you ride the polar bears, and that's like a big level in Crash where you get to do that every now and again. And I think they like adapted it well, and it still has that Crash identity. But I feel like it was more like they approached it in the sense of like, we want to make a Mario Party style like mini game, and we're gonna put Crash in it. How can we do that? Whereas like Snap and Stadium, I think, were really good examples of like, how do we take this core concept of the game and what people love about it and adapt it to other things. I feel like it's almost like they reverse engineered it.
I think that's something that can happen with a lot of these games, is like, which are the spin-offs that are improving the brand, or being like, hey, Pokemon would be also really good in these other formats. And then there's other spin-offs, I feel, which are more like following the trend or trying to do the cash grab thing, where it's like Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl is coming out, and it's like, well, no one wants to play that. People just want to play Smash Bros. But this is just going to be like,
I think you underestimate how much people want to play Nickelodeon Brawl.
Do they?
They do. They do. Do you know? I've been seeing a lot of things about it because I kind of like vaguely follow the fighting game community, and it has like one of the best online netcodes, this Nickelodeon game. So people are like, holy shit, like this is actually a legitimate game.
It's crazy, but I mean, fair enough. Like that's great, but I still think like at the end of the day,
but yeah,
nobody's gonna be busting out that over Smash Bros. Like
sure. At the end of the day, like we're into Smash 100%. We're into Nickelodeon 50% because it's hilarious, and 50% because maybe it's actually kind of a cool game underneath.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Another one to shout out here for spin-offs, I think, is Telltale games. I think those are some great spin-offs. Specifically for me is Tales from the Borderlands I played last year. Really liked that one. I think it worked really well as a spin-off too, because I mean, Borderlands, for all its ridiculous action and like, humor and dumb guns and stuff like that, is also like they do a decent job, better than you'd expect, kind of building that world out and adding story elements to the games. And I think that's boiled down really well in something like Tales from the Borderlands, which, removes the action and just lets you focus more on the characters and do a bit of that world building in a more, narrative setting. So I think that was a great spinoff and a really good match between like format of what the spinoff will be and the brand that they're attaching it to. I think that was like a really good match.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And Borderlands is actually, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's another good stepping stone to like the other type of spin-off, I think. And it's sort of, if Snap is taking the core aspect and trying something different, Borderlands has like with the new one that's coming out, that fantasy.
Yeah, Tiny Tina.
I think, yeah, with Tiny Tina, and they did the D&D campaign, which was cool, but I think a little bit more Borderlandsy. But this next game is like a full-on fantasy game. And so it's kind of taking something and doing like a what if sort of scenario. Like, well, what if Borderlands was fantasy? Like, how would that look? How would it work in that
still guns
genre shift? Still guns, obviously. Like, it's still Borderlands, but like, what if you skinned it up differently, and like, how would that affect it? Like, what would the characters react? And it's kind of like almost like I don't want to say like fanfic, because I don't want to like reduce it, because I know like that's kind of got like a little bit of like a negative connotation, or like a connotation of like not very high quality. But I think what interests people about that sort of stuff is it's using your imagination to take pre-existing ideas and characters and put them in situations and try to decide like, well, what would be different? Like, what would make it interesting? How would they react to these situations? And I think that's another cool thing that you can explore in spin-offs. And
yeah, that's a good point.
And even things like there's like a lot of DLC, I think, is a good example of that. Like in The Last of Us, they had the DLC of like Ellie's, that section like where you do a time skip, and that Ellie's been up to some things in that period of time, but you don't get to actually see it in the game. You just hear about it afterwards. The DLC comes out and it's exploring that period of time.
Filling in the gaps, right? Adding to the
Filling
story.
in the gaps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But is that a spin-off though? Is that a spin-off?
Well,
I don't know if that's a spin-off as much as it's an addition to
Yeah.
a game that already exists. Like that's another slippery slope, though. I don't know.
Okay. I guess that's true. Maybe that one's a little bit more grounded, but with something like Borderlands, like, well, maybe it is in canon, maybe it's not in canon, but it is kind of taking it and adapting it to a different situation or a different set of parameters, and that's interesting. So
It is, yeah. And another kind of spin-off too, and I don't know like where this one falls, but it just kind of came to my head while you were talking. Is something like Mega Man X compared to regular Mega Man. Like how regular Mega Man's kind of slow paced. You got the little pea shooter thing. You're running across. You get your abilities, but it's everything moves at kind of this one set speed. Whereas Mega Man X is very much like the teen version of Mega Man, where it's like kind of edgier characters and you can have the dash and there's a bit more speed to it, right? And so like those games are fundamentally almost identical in terms of their formula, but then X is such a different spin-off, such a different take of what regular Mega Man is. I think that's a really interesting like comparison in terms of like, is that a spin-off? I mean, I guess it is, right? But it's almost identical in a lot of ways. It's weird.
And I guess like at what point too does it stop being a spin-off and it start just being the main line of the series? Like,
well, I think that's a Persona situation, right?
That's a Persona situation.
Or like they're entering into that now.
Yeah, or like I guess they're still making Shin Megami games, so maybe that's the distinction. But like, what about a series like Sonic that like is so core classic, and you still have like Mania coming out and like those like original old school like core Sonic games. But then you have stuff like, well, they have the Adventure series, and then they've got like so like Sonic Forces and Sonic Heroes and like so many like of like 3D Sonic games. Yeah, and like at what point is like that just is Sonic now? Like
yeah, when does it get taken over?
Yeah, when is that just like games naturally evolve and like this is just what the Sonic franchise is, like to everybody's like crying and everyone's crying and like sad and it's a horrible day. At what point do we acknowledge that we're in like a post-apocalyptic world and this is Sonic's identity?
The only other type I can even think about that, or something that I had written down, was I wanted to mention Uncharted Lost Legacy. And I don't know if that's even a spin-off or what it is, because it's not like a numbered Uncharted entry, but it's also probably the least different than its source material. Like, because it's not the same as The Last of Us, where the Ellie thing is like an addition to The Last of Us. It is a separate standalone game. But the mechanics, the only difference really is that it's shorter and you play as different characters that are not Nathan Drake. They're still in the mainline games, but they're just different like player characters. So I don't know if like, I think that's a spin-off, but it's kind of along the same lines as a sequel also, just in a different, like it's not numbered. I think that's where it comes down. But I don't know like if that qualifies, but I think regardless, it's a great addition to like whatever it is adding to Uncharted.
And like, is Miles Morales a spin-off? A Spider-Man?
That's the same thing. Like, that would be the same comparison. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I don't know.
That's a really gray area, right? I would say they are spin-offs, but they're very, very close to the source material. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah.
Any other ones you wanted to shout out, Kate, before we close it out?
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be reeling from this. Like, I don't feel like you don't have a definitive answer, but I feel like a lot of people are going to have like a very strict answer, even though you can't really like quantify everything perfectly. But I like spin-offs. I think they're fun. I think Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is the best spin-off of all time, and I want to close on how great that game is. Just one last little shout out for it.
It really is, and people should play it. It's probably the best game on the Game Boy Advance, I would say. I mean, that's a really controversial opinion, but obviously we really like it, so we got to stick by it. It's a good game though. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think spin-offs are good in general. Like, I really like them. I'm inclined to, if it's a franchise that I like I've considered buying Persona 5 Strikers, and I do not like Dynasty Warriors games, but if it's a Persona spin-off version of it, I would consider buying it. So obviously there's some attraction there.
I would go for the Persona Rhythm games over Strikers.
Oh man, I want to play those. I actually almost bought those the other day.
Yeah,
I just was
those
like,
games legitimately look good.
They do. They look fun. I'll check them out. That'll be a spin-off follow-up segment. But until we get to that point, Kate, until I purchase those rhythm games and maybe play them, we got to do one more thing before we leave the show today, which of course is our listener mail question. And we have a new writer today. So thank you, Paul, for writing a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. He's wrote in, and I really like his question. He says, "Hey guys, great show. Wondering if you guys would like some video game would you rather questions. Yes, Okay, good. Looking forward to your answers. Keep up the great content. And Paul, I appreciate your confidence because the answer to that is 100% yes. Would you rather questions, if you say no to a would you rather question, that's an immediate red flag.
If you
It
say
is
no to would you rather
always.
question, I would probably rather not talk to you.
Yes. Yes, I like it. And Paul seems to be a little bit of a mind reader because he started off, he's got 5 good would you rather questions for us. And he started off with probably the best would you rather question I've ever read. And it's exactly about some spin-off potential. And he says Bloodborne 2 is revealed, but is it turn based or is Bloodborne cart real?
Oh man, that's
and
actually
this,
really fitting for this episode now that I think about it. Wow.
yes. This is a wonderful question.
I'll let you go first, Kate. This is definitely your question more than mine. So what would you prefer?
Well, now see, here's the thing.
We've seen footage of Bloodborne cart. We've seen it.
We have seen footage of Bloodborne cart. I don't think there's anything I want to see more than like Gehrman just wheeling his way down the street. And I'm so attached to this idea, partially just because it's hilarious. Like, nobody actually, well, I mean, some people maybe do, but nobody actually thinks Bloodborne cart's real. We just love the idea of it. And like, FromSoft, maybe as a joke, as like a April Fool's thing, we might get it. But a turn-based Bloodborne could also be really cool. And I think that's the better answer because it has way more potential. So props to Bloodborne cart, but a turn-based Bloodborne could genuinely be really cool.
That's what I'm going for as well. I've been playing Like a Dragon, as people know, and I've just fallen so in love with that game that I would love to see Bloodborne. Also, I want every game to become a turn-based game now. Like, just give me Bloodborne turn-based, give me Call of Duty turn-based, give me everything. I'll definitely pick the turn-based Bloodborne 2, for sure. But I'd love to play Bloodborne cart also. Definitely looks fun.
Okay, well, the questions are all maybe easier from here on out because they aren't just the 2 best options in the entire world. But question 2 is, but PS5 has multiple special edition consoles. Or sorry, would you rather PS5 has multiple special edition consoles that are game specific or released in multiple different colors over time?
See, this takes me back to when we were selecting which color N64 we wanted back in the day for Christmas. And there was like so many different colors. There was the standard, like the black colored one, which was, I mean, standard is always nice. And then there was all those like clear orange, clear purple, clear green, teal, like all those different ones. We got the teal, of course, best color.
Yeah, the see-through teal, which 10 out of 10.
I would take those back in a heartbeat. I love the look of those systems. And, you know, for the most part, I don't like to buy, like I've never bought one of those console specific systems just because like I feel like there's not really, they end up looking kind of like I don't really want my system to be themed after one thing, you know. I'd rather get something that's a bit more generic, so I'll go with the colors.
That's fair. I think colors is definitely the safer choice, but every console lifetime there's always one that comes out and it's like, damn, that is gorgeous.
And it comes out after you already have one, so you're not going to buy a second one. Yeah.
Exactly. I never get it because I already have the console and I can't get it. But I'm going to go with the game-specific ones because the PlayStation 5 in particular has the panels that are really easy to take off. So I think it would be really cool if you could just get the maybe this is cheating, but if you just would get the panels and then put them on yourself.
Well, you can do that now. It's just they're third party and like not official. So that would be cool to do like official ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like do cool official ones and like you could have maybe like a couple that, you know, over time you'd swap out. And I think it'd be really cool. But like, I'm really into Ghost of Tsushima right now, and you got the Ghost panels, and then you're like, oh man, Elden Ring came out, Elden Ring panels.
That's true.
And like,
I think Xbox did that before with the 360. They had like face plates and stuff you could buy. Pretty sure they did that, but you never know. Maybe it makes a comeback. Be cool if
really cool.
If PlayStation did like design labs like Xbox has, where you can like create your own colors and stuff. You could make your own PS5 panels. That would be really cool.
I'm surprised that they don't, because like third party makes so much money doing that kind of stuff. It's like you could just like, why can't we have a yellow one, right?
Yeah, but, you know, the second if they were to be official PlayStation, people would like lose it and buy all of them.
Exactly. And as someone who cannot paint or like do my own, I really rely on you guys, wonderful people on the internet, making cool face plates. So we'll see. But anyway, we'll move on to question 3. This one is a little more straightforward. Would you rather a new Jak and Daxter or a new Sly Cooper?
Let's go Sly Cooper. I think that's going to be the answer, especially like after realizing I enjoyed Hitman a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'd be down for some more stealth. You know, I've also been watching a little bit of Metal Gear stuff online these days, trying to educate myself on that amazing franchise that I've not tried. So I'm kind of on the stealth train right now. Maybe you're about bullet hells. I think I'm feeling some stealth. So let's give me some Sly Cooper.
You know what? As much as I wasn't as keen on some of the stealth, I think I'd take Sly Cooper. The world and the characters interest me a little bit more than Jak and Daxter do, and it's a franchise that I've never really gotten into, but I like the revival of all these old franchises, and I think a Sly Cooper could be pretty cool.
Yeah, this might be a hot take. I feel like Jak and Daxter is just like off-brand Ratchet and Clank, whereas like Sly is kind of his own thing. So I think he's better.
I think it's just a little more personality I get from that game. All right, our penultimate question, number 4. Would you rather PlayStation Plus becomes free or PlayStation Plus members get a discount on PlayStation Studios games?
Now, this is an interesting debate, isn't it? I don't know. I think it comes down to we're missing a bit of information of like what is the discount we're getting for those games. Because hypothetically, like what do I buy? Probably four-ish full price PlayStation games a year, maybe like the biggest ones, right? So I mean, if I'm getting enough discount to cover the cost of PS Plus, like combined with other stuff, then maybe it's worth it. I don't know. We'd have to do the math on that one, but I think discount would be appealing, I will say.
So you looked at it in a very like logical way. Like, yeah, like what would save you the most money? I kind of looked at it and was like, how selfish am I? Because I would love the discount. That sounds nice. But also, I know a lot of people who don't buy the PlayStation Plus because they just don't feel like they'd use it enough. And like, it's so exciting to get new games. Like, I can't tell you how many games I have on Epic Game Store that I've never played or will ever play, but I get them every time because they're free. And I love Epic Games because of that. And, I just think Sony could maybe do with the PR a little bit of like, Game Pass is so user friendly and we're paying for PS Plus. And like, I don't think it's a bad service, but like, some free games would be nice, or at least just the online to be free. Like paying for online subscriptions. I feel like that's one of those like weird things. So
that's got to go at some point. You know what's so funny now that I realize my answer? Maybe this actually sounds kind of stupid. Could you imagine Sony's like, hey guys, you get 15-20% off, say 25% off Sony first party games, like good job, like enjoy your discount, and then you just look over and it's like, well, Xbox is just like, well, you have Game Pass, you can just play your games here. Like you don't even have to get a discount. Like it would just be like celebrating something so small in comparison. I don't know. Like there's a big argument there, obviously, but it's just kind of funny to like compare it like that.
The comparison. I think what I do is I would want PS Plus to be like free, but I think that'd be something kind of cool where like if you would get like kind of like how Nintendo does, where you like buy things and you get points and then you can like spend them on like discounts for the store. Like kind of like that, almost like a points tier system.
Like but what are the gold coins or whatever they got?
Yeah, but maybe I don't know, maybe that's getting a little complicated. But free PS Plus would just, who doesn't benefit from that?
I'll take it right now if they'll offer it. So let's hope.
Can I get my like ones I just bought refunded though? That's a quick question. If I have like 6 months, can I get it refunded? That's important to me.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, these have been fun, and our final question is would you rather a new PS Vita model or PSVR 2 is affordable and it's awesome?
Now this, Kate, I think is the hardest question because I want both of those quite badly. I mean, I love my Vita. I was a very late adopter. I got it like 2 years ago. But I loved it. I think I'm actually going to go with the PSVR 2 for this one though, just because I've never owned PSVR. It'd be like completely new experience. And I'm definitely interested in whatever PSVR 2 ends up being. Like if I've got the means to make that work and try it out, like I'd like to get it probably anyway. So hearing it's going to be affordable and awesome, I think I'll take that.
I think I'm on board with you. The fact that it's going to be awesome gives me a lot of confidence about this answer. I don't know how awesome. It doesn't say
the Vita's going to be awesome. If it said the new Vita is awesome, then maybe I would go for it. But
exactly. The Vita, not as much confidence in this answer, but VR is definitely one of those things where I feel like it's still kind of in that gimmick zone, but it is in the growing pains of getting out of that. There's some really cool PSVR games. Like there's some, we're big Astro fans. Would love to be able to play some of that.
Iron Man VR, I want to play it so bad.
Yeah, Iron Man VR is so cool. And you know what? VR is it's a good time. Even if you just crack it out once every 2 months for a night or two, it is such a blast. Like I was just talking to my groups. I know someone who's got an Oculus. And it's awesome. Like we've had some Beat Saber nights and we've had some other like kind of like on rails gun shooting games, and like it is so much fun. And I said to him, it was really hot here for a while. Now it's getting cooler. And I said to him, like, now that it's not so hot, we have to bring the VR back out, because like you move around so much. It's like genuinely feels like a workout playing. And so you don't want to be doing that in the like 35 plus, like, in the heat in the living room. Like you don't want to be like sweating in your headset. So we didn't play for a while. Yeah. Not a good time, especially when you're passing it around. It's no good. But now that it's cooler, I've like really had it on my mind, and I've been really itching to play some Beat Saber. So knowing that the headset is awesome and affordable, and I really, really want to play Beat Saber, I think the Vita's it's got to go in the garbage.
Man, I can just see it. You're going to get a PSVR 2 when that comes out, like say 2023, right? Christmas, you get a PSVR 2. There's like a bunch of sick games on there that, I can't even speculate what they would be, but the first thing you're going to do, Beat Saber, like for sure.
It's the quintessential VR game. Like it's perfect.
Amazing.
That game is perfect. There's nothing you can do to make it better aside from just keep adding music forever. That game, like 10 out of 10, does exactly what it intends to. Wouldn't change a thing. I love it.
The only thing I would change, and here's my concept for Beat Saber 2. Let me pitch this to you quick, and then we're going to head out of here, because this has been a long episode. Thank you for sticking with us, everybody. But, okay, how about this? PSVR 2, Beat Saber 2, right? Beat Saber 2 is the same as Beat Saber, but the game gives you the option to select several different weapons. So it's not always swords. Like, what if you had, a nunchucks or something like that? That's the first thing that came to mind. Two-handed weapon nunchucks. Like you could use those instead. Like
the precision of the nunchucks.
Yeah, it would change the way you're hitting the blocks. It would be amazing. You use all different kinds of things. Yeah.
All right. So it turns out there is one addition you can make to Beat Saber that maybe improves it. It's a 9.9 out of 10 right now. It doesn't have nunchucks.
Hey, nothing is perfect. You can always improve it. That's all I'm saying. Great game though. Love Beat Saber, and love these questions too. Thank you, Paul, for your listener mail question. Those were great. Please send in some more, guys. These are fun. Like we said at the top of the show, circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. If you would like to be like Paul and send us a question for next time. I'd also like to remind everybody quickly that if you enjoy what we do, you like our show, please do us a favor. We're really trying to push our YouTube channel right now to try and get up to the 100 subscriber mark to get that custom URL. So if you like the show, you've stuck with us to the end, we would very much appreciate if you could go do that. Or if not, that's fine too. Thank you for listening. We appreciate everyone out there taking this video game journey with us. So with that being said, we're going to close the show for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks' time to talk about some more PlayStation, and we'll see you then. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gratton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.